Breaking news, Joe Biden has cancelled his historic visit to Australia next week as debt ceiling negotiations continue in Washington. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has confirmed the US President has postponed the trip down under and it will be rescheduled at the earliest opportunity. Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neil says it's disappointing the President can't make it.
President Biden rang Prime Minister Albanese this morning and let him know the news that he wasn't going to be able to make it to Australia, which is, of course, disappointing, but we understand that he's going to be needed back in the States. The Prime Minister is going to see the President, I think, next week when he visits Japan, so they'll get to catch up then, and we really look forward to welcoming President Biden when he is able to make it back here, hopefully very soon.
Yeah, the US President was set to arrive just on Tuesday to attend the 2023 Quad Leaders Summit. For more, let's bring in Seven's political editor, Mark Riley. Riles, the US government is about to run out of money, so that would focus the President's attention.
It might do, Kosh. It'd be the 26th time since 1976, though. It's a fairly regular political pantomime in the US, the debt ceiling crisis. I remember Newt Gingrich ran it against Bill Clinton when I arrived in the US as a correspondent in '98. You might remember the Tea Party did the same thing against Barack Obama. So it's something that the Republicans tend to do when they control the House of Representatives, and what they're essentially trying to do is to stop the government from borrowing more money to run the government unless they agree to reduce debt. So, yes, it's a very serious issue and one that Joe Biden needs to attend to in Washington, because all politics is local and his local politics are in Washington.
Yeah, and it's spooking financial markets right around the world at the moment as well. Hey, he was due to come here because of the Quad Leaders Summit. Now, with him not here, he's obviously a key player at the Quad, at the four of them. Will that meeting still go ahead?
Look, I don't know. They haven't made a decision yet, but I suspect not, Koshi, because you're right. He is the key member of the Quad, which is Australia, the US, India and Japan. Now, Anthony Albanese quite diplomatically said this morning that he's going to speak to Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, and also Fumio Kishida from Japan. But look, they will all still see each other in Hiroshima on Saturday at the G7. So there's still a possibility of an informal Quad meeting on the sidelines of that summit. At least they'll all be in the same room at the same time and in the ante-room. So, but they will reschedule. There will be a formal meeting at some stage. The problem is that the year is jam-packed full of these international forums that I just don't know when they're going to find a window to do it.
Yeah. Just while we got your Reserve Bank Board minutes released yesterday, all sorts of speculation that the Reserve Bank is sort of softening us up for further interest rate hikes. Those wages figures out at 11:30 this morning are going to play a big role in that, aren't they?
Oh, they'll be central to it, Koshi, as you know. I mean, wages are moving again. That's a very good thing. The problem is that productivity isn't, and that disconnect is what the Reserve Bank's looking at. It wants to see productivity grow. It's insipid. It's been below 1% for the better part of the past decade and needs to move. And the Reserve Bank, what it's doing is signalling that it is prepared to increase rates further if it needs to put downward pressure on inflation, and that disconnect between wages and productivity puts pressure on inflation. The big banks are split. We had the NAB now predicting 1 and possibly 2 0.25% increases before the cycle is over, and CommBank saying yesterday that they won't move at all. So the banks don't seem to know what the RBA is going to do. But I think those wages figures will give us some finer idea. All
depends on the figures. Thank you, Riles. General rule of thumb, if that wages figure comes in annually at 3.6%, or above, interest rates will rise. If it comes below, then interest rates will stay on pause. That's the rule of thumb coming out of analysts at the moment.